Good morning, it's Caralee
and Stacy,
and we are with North Texas Networkers, a show about introducing interesting people across the DFW. And today we have a special lady. She's not only an owner, a queen, an entrepreneur, woman in business, she's also my friend and client, and we are happy to welcome Emily Lynch, owner of the movement, the McKinney movement. So tell us a little bit about you and your family, and then we'll get further into more about your business.
Sure thing. Well, my background is actually in dance, so for a lot of what we do in the studio, my knowledge, my expertise typically comes from a movement-based background, not necessarily always fitness, but I love helping people move smarter to feel better, and so that's kind of what the business element of McKinney Movement Center is. And as far as my family goes, I never, first of all, envisioned owning my own business. So this is really a fun stage in my life, just learning what all of that is. And my family on my mom's side were all entrepreneurs. A lot of them had car mechanic shops, designers, and things like that. So I feel like it does run in the blood. And so that's, I guess, a little element of where now pieces are coming together with my life. But my husband is actually born and raised here in Texas, and he has a business background, but is also an airline pilot. So we have lots of creative juices going with everything right now. And our business is sort of in the, in the beginning stages. We've been open for almost a year. This November will be a full year of open. So again, just lots of learning going on. But I'm from Florida, so I should have said that first, but I'm from Florida originally and came here because of my husband, and so, yeah, that's kind of how I ended up here.
So when you say you have a background in dance, was that like starting in high school? Were you much younger? Were you like ballet as a 3-year-old? What does that background look like?
Definitely ballet as a 3-year-old, and I began just kind of adding more and more styles on, more classes on. And so I knew I loved moving. We were big Disney fans because I was from Florida. So we're from Jacksonville, so Orlando is like 2.5 hours. We had the season passes, and I saw so much live art. And that was sort of where my love came into, adding on more classes and more things. And so I love performing. That was like my very first thing. But I was also really shy, and that's why my parents. Well, it's coming out right now because you could probably tell I'm a little nervous because I haven't been on a camera in forever, but or even on a stage, surprisingly, because I stopped dancing when I started my Pilates training, and it was a new thing for me, but I just wanted to really help people behind the scenes. A lot of the students I was working with, I worked with a ballet school in New York, and constant injuries and things like that. And so that's sort of how the dance came full circle with what I do now, is that I really wanted to help students be able to pursue a career in dance. And that way, with my knowledge and expertise of the body and performance, I was able to sort of bridge that gap of after they've been seen, by a doctor, what next? How do we continue to maintain, what we're trying to prevent from happening again and stopping your career. But luckily I never had an injury as a dancer, so that was very fortunate. But my brother also was a dancer, and I watched him, as an athlete, just growing into that and how to maintain everything that you've trained for and be able to feel the joy of hitting that high level of performance.
Well, I'd love to know a little bit more about your dance in New York. How did you end up there, and how long were you there, and was your brother there with you?
Unfortunately, no. Maybe a couple of summers he did train there at the same time, and that's kind of, I would say, how I really started digging deeper into arts admin. So I have a BFA in dance from Florida State University, and their program was really unique in that it had an all-encompassing element to dance. So, I went into it thinking I'm going to be working on my performance, and I'm going to graduate, move to New York, and dance forever and tour the world. That was my mindset, or have my own dance company. I loved choreographing. But then from there, I ended up learning a lot about kinesiology. Pilates was a part of our programming, and also design and graphic design. We did video work. I got into photography for a little bit just as a side job because we always need headshots as dancers, and it's always hard to find a really good photographer, you know, that, like we were talking earlier, your angles and things like that. As a woman, you're like, wait, can you go over there just a few more steps so I can get my shoulder?
I know, I wanted to see if we could switch positions
Right?
today.
Yeah, this is my good side, you know, whatever.
Exactly.
But so I started getting into that as a side job, but then I got a position with the Joffrey Ballet School.
Oh, wow.
It was so great, and their position was in housing. So they have a trainee program in New York where they have students from all over the states and all over the world come and train in the city, and you stay there a full year, and you're getting, you know, classes from modern, or it depends on what your focus is. They had a ballet specific program and then a more commercial dance program. So kind of you're picking what direction you want to go specifically, because as you guys probably know, entertainment industry, there's so many things. You can have commercials, like you can be in a music video, you can, you know, all those elements. And so the programs up there with the Joffrey Ballet School, they have several different entities of like platforms that you can choose to be a part of and be selected for. So I was in housing, so we had all of the students, and I was responsible for basically their well-being.
Oh, wow.
In New York. And we had a
Stressful.
staff, yeah, because the range was students from 15 to 23 sometimes. So, you know, the 23-year-olds, they're usually okay. They know how to work the subways and whatnot, but like we had curfew, you know, just those silly things that, you know, ballet schools or boarding schools have for there. So I ran that for a year, and anyway, I learned so much through that, just about communication and, you know, customer service and all of those things. And then on the backside, just how to run a business in a way, because you're looking at budgets and all those things. I loved all of that, to see the back end of an arts industry, you know. But then on the side, while I was doing that, I was dancing, and I was working for a company called Wingspan Arts, where I taught dance to students in public schools after school.
Oh, wow.
And it was a nonprofit organization, so we were paid. They really did a good job taking care of the employees, but it was so much fun. I taught dance one year, and then I was an assistant TA another year for another kind of arts class. So they had everything from music to visual arts and dance, and so I loved that element as well. And then I nannied. You know, when you're in New York, you have to do everything. And then I did my photography, which it was really fun, because you know, I felt like, oh, I'm using everything that I have. Like that was just not something most people my age were doing, because they would, you know, wherever they were, they had the one job, and so I feel, you know, even though I had to work really hard and hustle and grind, that was fun. Yeah. And I got to improve several skill sets and preparing me for today, you know, and what I do now.
See, you're doing so well.
Which I never thought, but yeah.
Can you teach dance, or is that something that people either are going to have or not have?
Because Stacy and I think we could be taught.
I think you can be taught. Now, I will say it depends on what your goal is with it, you know. So a lot of times, like honestly, even with what I do, I had a lady, she was in couple weeks ago, and she asked me, hey, now that you have the studio in there for bar and, you know, everything, are you going to provide like adult ballet classes? Because like we really want to work on our poise and our ease. And I thought, wow, you know, I forget about that stuff too, like walking in heels. Like I even thought, oh, we should do a workshop on like how to actually walk in heels gracefully, because who wouldn't want to do that better? You know what I mean?
Look at me, you know, sophomore going to prom. And
right? Yeah, I know.
Even just etiquette class for senior year and learning how to walk,
absolutely.
have correct posture.
One of our instructors, she has a side job too. She nannies also, but I'm trying to remember. She works with the cotillion. And does some of their dance courses. And
I know,
we make them do it anyway.
I know. It's about balance, right?
It is.
Like, it's about balance.
Learning.
And, you know, I think.
Grammar, not grammar, but courtesy and etiquette.
So how do sports and dance go hand in hand? Because you mentioned your brother was in sports. And when my daughter was very young, I put her in ballet as she was a soccer player. I figured it's either going to make her a really rough ballerina or a really graceful soccer player.
That's funny.
Now, we weren't sure which way it was going to go, but she only took the 1 year of dance,
Yeah,
so that wasn't
yeah.
her cup of tea. But
Definitely. And I think dance is definitely more of an art form. And that's what I talk to dance moms all the time. Like a lot of the students, I still train some dance students on the side. And we talk a lot about the industry and how it's so hard because it is a sport. Like they are athletes the way that they train, or they need to train, but there's so much subjectivity in art, to aesthetics, and then you're talking about bodies, and so. But with the athletics, I also have a couple tennis players that I train, and so it's really, really fascinating to work on. What I work on in the studio is connectivity. So all of your fascial systems, like when you go to lift your arm. If you lift your arm just like that and it's jerky, or the way that you're moving, if it's not with ease, or if you even have a former injury or something like that, your fascial system needs to be, I would say, like a pizza dough crust. Whenever you make the pizza, there's all these bubbles when you're rolling out the crust. You need to be able to smooth that out. And so that's sort of, in a way, the approach I have with the athletes that we train is that we look at our center out. Everybody could use a strong core, right? It's the position or the place that we move from, even when we're walking. And so strengthening that, and not only just by doing exercise, but you learning how to feel that, because I know you both have dabbled a little bit in Pilates with us. And
Yes.
so, it's when you first start, you're like, I don't feel it. Sometimes you're like, this feels easy. And then we work on helping you learn to connect better to your system. And so,
How does your core affect the rest of your fascia?
Definitely. So your core muscle group it's a wide variety of muscle groups, and there's still research out there right now. What is the core, But I always say there's, 4 main parts in terms of muscular system, and that's your transverse abdominis. It's one of the deepest layers of your abdominal system. It's like a corset, wraps from your spine all the way around the front. And then you also have your multifidi down your spine, the little teeny tiny muscles up and down your vertebrae.
Yeah.
Multifidi. The good news is it's actually spelled just how it sounds, like multi.
You don't have to spell it.
Right, like multi, and then fidi, F-I-D-I.
Oh, there you go.
It really
I
is,
did.
yeah.
I was in the spelling bee in 5th grade. I got down to the final 2. I shouldn't slam my hand. I got down to the final 2, and the word that got me was doeskin. Isn't that weird? I'm like, I'm not 100. What is that?
Well, it
You're out
sounds
there on the stage. And
it sounds like you're back at your pizza dough.
I know. Yeah, right. So I think I spelled it just like that.
Oh, how
It's like D-O-E.
That's funny.
That's a weird
Okay,
word.
so I'm sorry, I didn't mean to derail.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I have a trail.
Major
But no, for sure. Multifidi, and then you have the pelvic floor, actually, which is an interesting layer, because I know a lot of people don't really know what that is, but you think about, pregnancy, a lot of people that have given birth, you know what that is, because you need those deep core muscles. And then you also have your diaphragm. So that's why in Pilates, we work a lot on breath, and it's like, a lot of us
Do I
don't
breathe in?
realize.
Do I breathe out?
Right,
Am
do
I
you
supposed
breathe
to
in?
push
Do you
here? Am I
breathe
supposed to-
out? And and we work on that a lot with how, and then the benefits even of all of that is not only just strength, right, but stress management, also learning how to, when you're going to lift something heavy, coordinate that breathing with the rest of your system so that you're not hurting yourself.
Right.
Because I think almost everybody that I work with, including myself, by the way, have some sort of area of pain, like some sort of pain point area, maybe from a previous injury, or just like something's wonky,
Yeah.
And so a lot of times we end up, babying that area, or sort of compensating in another way to not deal with that spot. So a lot of times, even what we're doing in our space is just helping you learn how to strengthen your core, because the more that your core is active and you're pressurizing that, it takes pressure out of, say, the hip joints, your knees, your ankles, and most of us would say it's typically low back we see, or hips, and then, but everything is connected, and that's what I preach, is just everything is connected. You can't train just your hip to fix your hip. You have to train your core. You have to train your foot, of all things, you wouldn't
Ankles
think.
and all
But
that.
yeah, so, but, we try to make it simple, because I think a lot of times people get overwhelmed by, oh my gosh, I have to work now on my ankle, and now my hip's hurting, and now this, and it's like, I see the anxiety. I feel it, it's like, so, okay, let's simplify. Let's work on your your core and let's work on connecting that, and you'll start to feel a difference with when this is integrated. So
Well, you do some different things too. You don't just do Pilates. So share with us, and you've got a really cool machine. I always forget what to call that.
Reformer.
Yeah, the
No, not the reformer, the gyrotonic. Yes.
Yes.
It's not a gin and tonic, it's a gyrotonic.
It feels like a gin and tonic, but you can drive after. Yes, it's fun, and it's becoming more popular, that one. So yeah, so at McKinney Movement Center, we offer obviously Pilates, we offer group training and private training, and then we offer gyrotonic, which is, I would say, on the newer end of a lot of the things that we offer. So gyrotonic's been around about 40 years. And I can go more into that in a little bit. Yes, there are specialized equipment pieces that we use for that. And it's, if you are a woodworker or you know anyone that is, every time they see it, they're like, wow, that's beautiful. the machine. And then my joke is, yes, and you'll feel and look even more beautiful when you do it because it really does target those fascial systems and stretching. And so a lot of dancers, that's what I use to train them.
Kind of looks like dance too, when you're using it.
The gentleman who created it was a dancer, a ballet dancer with Houston Ballet, actually. He's from Romania, and he had an injury and it knocked him out of everything, his whole career. He moved to the islands and was like, I'm done with dance. And then, just through being in an island, I mean, come on, who wouldn't see beauty and movement again after seeing the waves and the ocean, animals and things like that. So he was restored, and then came back to the States and sort of went on a mission to help others not in their career also with. So I identify a lot with him, and that joyful exercise is what we really talk about a lot with both gyrotonic and Pilates. And then we are launching a brand new thing at our studio, and right now we're still playing with what we're calling it, so it's still brand new, but we're looking at calling it studio fitness classes. So it's going to be bar fitness, yoga, mat Pilates, cardio dance, and who knows what else. But basically, I think one of the biggest things that's a challenge up in McKinney, we are McKinney Movement Center, but we're really right there at Frisco, Plano, Allen. Yeah, like where all four corners touch or whatever, right off 121 in Custer. And so the challenge is, you have all these big gyms out there, franchises are taking over, that's what I say, and it's great, you have these wonderful boutique options, but it doesn't have everything. And so, you have all these different memberships and you're trying to look for all these things that you enjoy in one place, but that kind of doesn't exist up there. Down here in Dallas, it's a little different. Right. But we have so many people moving too. It's interesting from down here to up there, and then from places like California that kind of have done Pilates before. And one of the things that we try to do is provide a more traditional Pilates experience for our members, and that's the heart, I think, if I would say, of our business. Is Pilates is definitely the heart of it. When you walk in the studio, that's what you kind of see first. So the reformers, the towers, all of the machines, the chair, the barrel, the Cadillac, and if you don't know what those things are, you can Google or check our website. But yeah, so again, we have small group size classes, and our point, again, going back to the business, is just helping people move smarter to feel better. So within the whole studio, you're experiencing that. And I know some people might say, well, I already move good, I don't need that. But it's not necessarily that you don't move well, it's just how can you move better? As we age, we are gonna encounter different things. Like sometimes, I got in a car accident 2 years ago, I couldn't have predicted that. And then that totally changed everything. The way that I move, the way that I feel every single day. And if I'm not doing my maintenance work, is what I call it, where I'm taking care of this left side, because it was a front, they hit me from the front, but on the driver's side. So if I'm not taking care of that, whether it's myself working it out, stretching it out, or going to see someone who's certified to help me, I don't feel good, and I don't want to work out, or I don't want to even move, and then I don't want to go travel. I don't want to spend time with my family because I hurt, and so it's just everything is connected, not only with our body, but how we feel in it every day. And so, my main thing is just that's what I want to be for McKinney and Plano and Frisco, is a place that anyone can come to experience joyful exercise, and also if you've hit a point, we have a couple clients, it's like, gosh, I've done my PT, I've had the surgery, everything still is bothering me in the same area. It's like that didn't solve the problem, which is really fascinating to me. So that is a mystery I'm looking at, and I'm always learning from our clients, like, wow, how can we help you still? And so we look at how they move, and I try to teach them, like, hey, listen, it's the left hip that's bothering you. So that left hip, we might need to look at what's going on in that right hip, because maybe there's some instability in your pelvis. And if you're constantly walking, a certain way, let's refine
Relate
that.
to this, Katie?
Yes, absolutely. I have a torn labrum in one of my
Oh,
hips.
fun.
So
Yeah.
all those good things.
Yeah.
Well, I have to say, I am so impressed with you, because when I started taking your Pilates class, you were in a location that eventually sold. And so somebody else may have just gone and found a different job somewhere else, but not you. Nope, you did that
Full
word.
on, let's start business.
You know, that word pivot has been,
Yeah.
in the vernacular for a while, but that's what you
Absolutely.
did. And so tell us
Yeah.
what that transition looked like.
Oh, absolutely. What's really funny, I should say, because you can look back and laugh a little
Yeah.
about life. Right before I found out the news that they were going to
losing that
sell,
location.
I was at a 10-day workshop in Austin, Texas for Gyrotonic. I was learning about a new machine that I was just like, oh my gosh, we have to have this because my dancers need this, my clients need this. And so I'm always looking to add to what we can provide. And anyway, it was in Austin, but it was in a Pilates studio and a physical therapy clinic. And the owners were lovely. And I just remember being there and being like, I miss this feeling, this feeling of being in a studio. And I wish we had something like this up where I was. And I have had clients that have said, would you ever consider, opening your own business and creating, an environment? Like I have one in particular, she was just like, I just want to go work out at a place that, feels
Like
XYZ
family.
or, yeah. Like I'm not having to walk through a gym to be stressed in that high energy environment and then walk into this thing. Anyway, we were talking, and I've had several people.
I hadn't thought of that.
And
That's
me
true.
neither, because I worked there and I loved what we had created and built. But anyway, all those thoughts started coming back when I was at this workshop. And I haven't really been to Austin much, and it was just seeing the hill country. I was like, wow,
Love Austin.
this is just gorgeous. And it just got my creative mind going. And then on the way back, I thought, well, maybe one day, I had this, I was more open to it. I had let that in, like, okay, maybe one day. And then I got back, not even a week later, I got the call from my boss about the sell. And she was about to get on a call with all the staff, including all my instructors. And I was like, oh no, they're gonna all freak out. I'm freaking out. But I was like, you know what? This is it. I know what I have to do.
So did you call them before
I called
they
them
had that?
before they
Yeah.
had the call. I was like, okay, here, listen. I don't know how this is going to happen because I have no idea what this really takes, like just to open a business.
Find a location.
Oh my Lord, all of that. I was overwhelmed, but it wasn't to where I couldn't think. It was like, nope, we got to do this. We got to do this. We got to, I was like already like, I already know we have to do this. Because I also felt like, there's nowhere else I want to work up here. Like there's nowhere for me. That's what I felt.
Yeah.
And I knew the other instructors felt that way too because of where they had taught previously. Some of those places had closed, didn't make it through COVID.
Right.
And then, not to mention you have all that still,
Lingering.
this was last year, 2021. So people I just now am seeing some people I haven't even seen since COVID.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy. People are still transitioning, but
So curious,
anyway.
did you end up getting the machine that you wanted for your new studio?
I did get it. It took a little longer because I was like, it was one of those things that we're like, okay, we need to focus on like providing for what we currently need to maintain. So basically after that day, and I called the teachers, they said, are you with me? Basically, like, because if you're with me, I'm going to think differently. If you're not really with me, I will do my own thing and it won't. I knew that I was okay being just me and my clients if I needed to be. But if they were with me, I was like, well, we can do something great together. So I have to thank them as well. That's Jacqueline Sartore and Kaylee Brandon and Stephanie Gordon. They're my teachers at the club, and they really have just kept going with me. So like if they weren't there, I probably wouldn't have had the stamina and the drive to want to just power through and let's make this awesome. I would have just done something for myself. So yeah.
Well, you've done an amazing job.
Thank you so much.
For sure.
Real quick, because I don't think we touched on it, I just would love, we don't have much time left, but would love for you to just give like a 1 minute on that you can do this at home with the video bookstore.
Yes. So again, my philosophy is like respond to what you guys are asking as clients, like what can I do as a business to make your life better, easier? And what we have seen, obviously, with some people not returning from COVID or just busy lives, and people are now, it's like the complete opposite. You have people still waiting, then you have people like, oh no, I'm going to Italy, Alaska, and they're gone for 5 weeks, and then they come back, and you're like, oh, I hurt. And so we decided, Kaylee, Brandon, and myself, one of my instructors, decided to launch a video platform. Video on demand is what it's called, but it's essentially workouts on demand. But it's all our instructors, so that's what kind of makes it special, because how many times do you go on YouTube and you Google Pilates workouts and you get about 2 exercises in, I know, and never makes a difference. That's okay. You just got to come to the studio.
I do need to come to the studio.
But you know, if you are looking for that option, it's like you go to YouTube first, typically, because it's free, and then you Google something, and I've been there where I get it 2 minutes in maybe, and I'm like, this doesn't feel good. This doesn't feel good to my hip. And then the teacher doesn't give you a modification, or hey, you know, if you have osteoporosis, you know, do this X, Y, Z. So you kind of get these streamlined, like just pure exercise, you know, fitness gurus on YouTube. But anyway, with us, what we decided to do was take what we do in the studio online. But the good news is you don't need to have a reformer or anything like that. You can just have a stretch band. We have a variety of workout options, and it's mostly bar-based, Pilates-based, mat-based, and so that's on our website. If you visit our website and click online offerings, you can see we have a video on demand platform. It's just a monthly subscription, and it's $25 a month. So that's like,
it's really inexpensive.
What is your website?
McKinneymovementcenter.com.
There you go.
Yep.
And the phone number?
Let me see if I can remember. 469-213-1227. There we go. I did good.
Awesome.
Okay. Yeah.
We have so enjoyed having you on the show. I feel like I
thank
could
you
ask you
guys.
20 more questions.
I know.
but
I feel like we were just getting
I know. I
started.
even wanted
We'll
to
have
hear
do
about how you
another.
and Clayton met.
I know.
About that. So,
That darn ballet school sent me here.
is that how it happened?
Yep. My boss was a friend of his, so
there you go.
that's so
we
cool.
met then, and
Fate, didn't it?
I remember when
Really
he met
was.
you, because Clayton was a client of ours prior to you moving here. And so I remember him telling me all about you and getting to meet you. So that's fun to hear too.
yeah.
Very good.
Well, we are looking forward to, well, first of all, thank you for being here today.
absolutely.
And we're also looking forward to next month, because we will have some of our leadership Plano friends on, some of our favorite people. They are a lot of fun, so you'll have to come back next month. And we want to thank you for joining us anytime you join us.
And we
Kara-
we also
go ahead.
want to thank Craig Schrank with Willow Bend Mortgage. He is one of our sponsors for this podcast.
Absolutely. We couldn't do it without Craig, so thank you so much. I'm Caralee,
I'm Stacy.
and we are your real estate professionals.
Thank you for joining us on North Texas Networkers.
Visit our website, mariposagroupdfw.com. That's MARIPOSA Group DFW.com for more information about the show and other resources. I'm Caralee.
And I'm Stacy.
And we are your real estate professionals.